Hi, I'm Steve Schroeder from GoldEye Home Inspection. This is a re-recording of a presentation I gave to the Guelph and District Association of Realtors. The original presentation was May 28th, 2020, and this is recorded on May 29th, 2020. So I'm just going to share my screen and try to get the slideshow going from the beginning and just set that up. Good. So what I'm going to talk about today is how realtors can promote energy efficiency and help their clients to understand that there's a benefit to the property values and to the property if they address those energy efficiency issues. This is the agenda for today. Under the normal plan, I would have stopped for questions halfway through the presentation. I did when I presented originally. Unfortunately, you won't have benefit of seeing those questions. And then I answered some more questions at the end. I'll try to encompass those questions, the information that I gave in answering those questions in the presentation itself. But if you do have any other questions, feel free to contact me after watching the presentation, and I'd be happy to talk to you about this more. So what is GoldEye Home Inspection? Well, I am the owner and at this point, sole inspector in GoldEye Home Inspection. We started the company while living in Winnipeg in 2014, 2015, and worked for a couple of years there before moving to Guelph in 2017. And so we've been operating here ever since. I do inspections and energy advisor work anywhere within about an hour drive of Guelph. I have done Mississauga. I tend not to go in that direction because there are a lot of other inspectors there and the traffic, etc. just makes for a long day. But certainly Kitchener-Waterloo, Cambridge, and up toward Erin, Orangeville, and all the surrounding area. How did I get into home inspection? Well, I worked for over 25 years in federal government laboratory research, initially in barley research for malting and brewing, and then I moved over to Health Canada. And one of my triggers, I guess you'd say, for getting into home inspection was a project we worked at Health Canada. We were working on toxic substances that are produced by molds, and did a project specifically on mold in building products. So that was one of the things that started my interest. Since we knew we were moving to Ontario, or planning to move to Ontario, I followed the Ontario Association of Home Inspectors qualification process, and I'm still a member of Ontario Association of Home Inspectors. And because of my scientific background, I have tried to bring that scientific approach to my home inspections, to think about everything in terms of building science. And so I've taken certifications in infrared thermography, in radon measurement, and finally last year, I got into energy efficiency and became a registered energy advisor with Natural Resources Canada. So when we talk about energy efficiency, it all starts with air tightness. Air tightness is the major factor in inefficient homes. It connects directly with how the homeowner feels when they're in the home. If there's drafts in winter, you can really feel it. And it also relates to moisture, damp houses, and in moving moisture in and out of the house through those leaks can become a problem. The energy rating, or the overall energy efficiency of the house, takes air tightness into account, but it also takes in other components or other factors of the building structure, the building components, how the assembly is made, the R factor, the insulation level, and that sort of thing. The reports that we produce when we're doing an energy audit or an energy assessment of a house can be a conversation starter as to how to improve the house. What do you do with the information you have in order to make things more efficient and more comfortable for the homeowner? So it's been 30, 40, 50 years now that energy efficiency has been important. This has reflected in the building codes. Demands for more energy efficiency have increased. And in older homes, there have been all kinds of programs and incentives for homeowners to upgrade the energy efficiency because it's of benefit to everyone. Homeowners understand that if they have an inefficient house, they're wasting money. They're literally letting money slip through the cracks and gaps in the building materials out into the environment. But as I said, they can also feel it in the drafts they feel, in the stickiness that a house will have in summer when it gets hot and humid. And homeowners really want those homes that perform better, that feel better, that they're comfortable in. So for realtors, understanding some of the details of our program can help you promote that and help your clients understand the way that they can use the information we have about the homes to feel better and to get a better product. So we talked about homes getting more efficient. Newer homes are built better, homes are being upgraded. How do we communicate that? Well, Natural Resources Canada, NRCan, has developed a program for energy efficiency to actually measure the energy efficiency of homes. And there's two components to this. One is the air tightness that I mentioned, and one is the energy rating. And I'll explain what those are and how they're measured. First of all, the air tightness. We're going to talk about air changes per hour at 50 pascals. Pascals is a unit of pressure, so if you can create a pressure difference between the inside and outside of the house, how much air is going to leak in and exchange the air that's inside the house. And the way that we do that is by a blower door test. This is a blower door. Comprised of the door itself. It's an expandable frame that will fit any door and a cover that seals it. There's a fan down in the bottom part, and there is a gauge that is connected to the fan. There's a tube that goes to the fan that measures airflow through the fan. There's another tube that goes outside to measure the air pressure outside, and there's a port that measures the interior pressure. So the fan is run. We do this at several levels of fan speed and the pressure is created. And it creates a negative pressure inside the house, or a pressure difference between the inside and outside. And the air that's sucked out of the house has to be replaced by something. So air leaking in through all the gaps in construction materials around windows, or where weather strip isn't sealed around doors or around your attic hatch. All that air leaking in replaces the air that's sucked out through the fan. And so with the airflow and the pressure difference, we calculate this air changes per hour of the house at 50 pascals. The other measure that we can calculate from this is the equivalent leakage area. It uses the same data, and it calculates the area of each of those little gaps and cracks around the house where air leaks in, and it compiles those into one number. So you get an equivalent leakage area. And that's actually the number that I'll talk about a little bit later when we're talking about the rebates. So this is how the air changes per hour has evolved in homes or in buildings in Ontario over time. So the average Ontario home, they say, this is 2007 data, they say was 7.5 air changes per hour. It's probably improved by now because a lot of newer homes have been built under higher standards. But you can see that there's a lot of older homes in Ontario that are quite leaky. As we move forward, I say quite leaky. Actually, the house we bought when we moved here from Winnipeg was well over 10 air changes per hour. It's a 1948 block foundation. We've upgraded it a bit with basement insulation and a few other things, and now it's down around 7, and we still have a lot of way to go with some new window door combinations and the attic. We haven't done anything with the attic yet. We might be developing it, so we're still trying to make decisions around that. But as codes improved, these numbers improved to around 5, and the average modern home, they say, is around 4.3 air changes per hour. You get into the current building code, or 2007 building code, it would be better than this now, but it was around 3. So you can see we're making quite a bit of improvement in the air changes per hour, the leakiness of the homes, and thereby the energy use of those homes. And then you can get into the higher standards that are out there, the Energy Star standard, the R2000 standard. These are starting to get very efficient, very tight houses. And anything under about 4 air changes per hour, we have to start talking about ventilation, because if you make houses too tight, what'll happen is by people living in them, you'll develop too much moisture, first of all, stale air, but you can also, if you have combustion appliances, fireplaces, gas stoves, that sort of thing, if you turn on, say, a bathroom exhaust fan, you create a negative pressure in the house. And rather than the combustion gases, carbon monoxide, being drawn out of the house, they can be drawn back into the house and create a dangerous situation. So we really need to address ventilation in these tighter houses. Then we get down into the really, really tight houses, the net zero ready and the passive house standards that require houses to be very, very tight, but they also address the ventilation issues in those situations as well. So what is a home energy rating? Well, it's a system developed by NRCan to quantitate the energy efficiency of the house. It's like the energy rating you see on your appliances when you buy new appliances. It's a calculation of the theoretical energy use over the course of the year. Or it also includes energy production on site. If there's renewables produced on site, solar panels, wind turbines, that sort of thing can contribute to the energy rating. It's expressed in gigajoules per year. Gigajoule is just a measure of energy. Can relate that to the BTUs of your furnace or the kilowatt hours that electrical appliances use. So this is a theoretical calculation under sort of standard conditions. Now, it does take into consideration where the house is located geographically. Obviously, in Winnipeg, where we're from, the winters are much colder, so the energy use that time of year would be much higher, and that would be reflected in the energy rating. The way the house is oriented is also taken into consideration, including whether there are overhangs or not. And the reason for that is in winter, if you're facing the south and you get the sun on the windows, you actually get some heat gain into the house, which is then reflected in the energy rating. But in summer, the sun is much higher and also much warmer, and the heat gain is not desirable. But if you have those overhangs, which are taken into consideration in the energy rating, you'll reduce that heat gain because those windows will be shaded. The other construction details, the thickness of the walls and the R values of the insulation are all factored in, the size of the house, all of that sort of thing is added into the calculation. It's really a computer model of the house, comprising all of the details of the house, that then is used to calculate the amount of energy that home would use through the course of the year. It also, the last couple things are the mechanical systems, how efficient they are, how much energy they will use, and then finally that air tightness data that we talked about. It does not reflect the occupants of the house, from the standpoint that, for example, if a homeowner was someone that just liked to have windows open, liked that cold air coming in winter, that's not reflected in it. It's not a judgment on anyone living in the house. So what do you do with this information? Well, it can be compared to other houses. You can compare it to a new house with the same sort of footprint, but that's built under new code. So obviously that would be a much more efficient house, hopefully anyway. And you can also compare it between houses. If you have buyers who are looking for a new home or an older home, but that's new to them, and they see that energy rating. It's actually a label that can be posted on the electrical panel, for example. And if they see that energy rating and another house that doesn't have it and doesn't appear to be upgraded, they can be confident then that some upgrades have been made and that this is a more energy efficient home, and they'll save money on the energy bills, and they'll feel more comfortable because in all likelihood that air leakage will have been addressed. So how does the energy assessment work? Well, as a registered energy advisor, I would come to the house. I'd have a short interview with the clients, basically to see if they're planning any work, or what kind of work they're planning, so that we can sort of tailor our recommendations that I'll talk about a little bit later to fit their needs. We then record the tax roll number. We take a photo of the tax statement and the gas bill to get the gas account number, so that the Enbridge is the one who's administering the program, and they will know, they'll be able to keep track of who is applying for rebates. Then we measure everything. We measure the perimeter. Basically what we're trying to do is create that computer model of the house, measure all the exterior walls, the height of the walls, the windows and doors, the size, whether the windows have low E coatings, whether the doors are insulated. We look at the mechanical systems, we document them, we take pictures and document the model and serial number to determine their efficiency. And then we do the blower door test and determine the air tightness of the house. When we do that blower door test, we close all the windows and doors, turn all the exhaust fans off, and turn the furnace fan off, so that it's a test of the building envelope leakiness, and none of those other factors come into play. So then we take all that data and we put it into a software program called HOT 2000. This is developed by NRCan, and it creates the energy use number, the energy rating for the house. And from there, we create 3 documents. One is the EnerGuide label that has the energy rating on it. It also, well, I'll get into that a little bit later. That'll be the next slide. The other documents are the homeowner information sheet that breaks down all the details of where the energy use is in the house. And then finally, the renovation upgrade report. That document provides some guidance to the homeowners to let them know how much of a saving in energy they will get if they make certain upgrades, or if they make all of the upgrades. So that's the first audit. We need to have 2 audits, one before the upgrades, and then one happens after the upgrades, just to document which upgrades have been made And to repeat the blower door test, one of the possible rebates is for air tightness improvement. And so we repeat the blower door to see if they've achieved a sufficient improvement to get that rebate. In between those audits, the homeowner has 120 days to complete upgrades in 2 categories. And I'll talk about the categories and how they all work. So those are the 2 audits. So here's the EnerGuide label. The numbers to look for are this one here, 142 is the current energy rating for this example. If the homeowner completes the upgrades that are recommended, that could improve to 121. So 10 to 15% improvement in energy use. A house built to the same sort of configuration as this example house, but under new code, would be around 93 gigajoules per year. So you can see the codes really have made an improvement in the energy use that we have in homes. And then there's this 0. That's our ultimate target. Ultimately, we'd like to get all homes down to a net 0. In our climate, obviously, that would have to have some on-site energy production like solar panels. Down below, we have the energy intensity. That takes the energy rating and accounts for the square footage of the house, or in this case, square meters. So it just breaks it down to per square meter. And finally, the greenhouse gas production. That's one of the big benefits of this, is you can see exactly how many greenhouse gases this house would use on an annual basis and how much of an improvement we can make by becoming more energy efficient. And then just one comment in the notes there, there's a note about what a gigajoule is. As I said, it's just a unit of energy. It's the equivalent of 30 liters of gas being burnt in your vehicle. So moving along, the rebate program. So this is a program run by Enbridge. Enbridge and Union Gas have merged so that the same company now. Here in Guelph, we're Union Legacy customers, we're called. So we're eligible, and it's for customers that use natural gas as their primary heating system. So either a furnace or a boiler typically. There's up to $5,000 available, and that includes $550 toward the cost of the audits. The 2 audits, our pricing currently is $400 plus HST for the first one and $200 plus HST for the second one. So that works out to $678, and there's a rebate of $550 if you qualify under 2 categories. It applies to owners of single units. Now, that's detached houses, semi-detached houses, row townhouses, and mobile or manufactured homes. It doesn't apply to people like me. The house that I'm in now, my office is in the basement, and we have an accessory apartment. And so it's considered a multi-unit residential building, and it's not eligible for this program. Similarly, apartment blocks are not eligible, or stacked townhouses are not eligible. I mentioned the homeowner has to complete upgrades in 2 categories, has 120 days to complete those upgrades between the audits. And then one important note, receipts are required. We need to get photocopy or a photograph of the receipts. If the homeowner is doing the work themselves, like insulation, they should keep receipts from the purchase of the materials, or if they're getting a contractor to do it, the invoice is fine. So these are the upgrade categories. First group are all insulation, air sealing, water heaters, your furnace or boiler, and then windows, doors, and skylights are one category. Keep that in mind because they can add up quite quickly when you're doing many windows, but it's only one category. You would still have to address another category to be eligible for the rebates. So I'll go through the individual rebates. I'll go through the first couple in some detail, but then you'll get the idea for some of the requirements that will also apply to some of the others. So for basement insulation, you get $1,000 for adding at least R23 to 100% of the basement exterior walls. Now, the $1,000 is if you do 100%. If you do, you have to get to R23, that's a minimum requirement. But if you do 50% of the basement, that is prorated. So you would get, in that case, $500 for the rebate. If you don't get to R23, if you're only upgrading by at least R12, and that 1,000 is for adding at least R23. So if there's existing insulation, you're adding to it. And if you're adding at least R12, there's a $500 rebate. For crawl spaces, for adding R23, you would get $800. For adding R10, you would get $400. And for adding at least R24 to the underside of a floor that is above a crawl space. I hate those cold floors above crawl spaces and garages. So you can get a rebate of $450 for insulating there. So exterior grade wall or exterior above grade walls, this is the big one, $2,000 for adding at least R20 to 100% of the above grade walls. There's a note down below for semi-detached and for row houses. Obviously, you're sharing two walls with your neighbor. Well, in a semi, you're sharing one wall with your neighbor. For a middle row house, you're sharing two walls. So those aren't included in the rebates, and the rebate is decreased by that amount. So for a semi, the $2,000 would only be $1,500 available for that. And then a $1,500 rebate for R9, up to a minimum, or to achieve a minimum of R12. So that's important for these next two, R9 and R3, but to achieve a minimum of R12 for exterior wall insulation. Now, the exception to that is where you have double or triple brick type walls where there isn't a cavity to insulate. You just have strapping or something like that on the interior. So that minimum R12 is not necessary in those cases. Furnace and boiler, this will be changing. We had a meeting earlier this year with an Enbridge rep who, furnaces now, they only last about 15 years or so. So they're finding that the furnaces being replaced are already reasonably high efficiency. So the sort of bang for their rebate buck isn't as great, or the bang for the efficiency buck isn't as great in this category as it might be in some other categories. So they're planning to shift some of the rebate money from this category elsewhere, probably insulation. But as for right now, there is still a $500 rebate available for upgrading your furnace. It has to be a 96% efficient furnace in this case, and for boilers, they have to be 90% or higher, and there's a rebate of $1,000 for those. Water heaters, again, there's a bit of a tricky situation here. For tank type water heaters, they require a 0.8 energy factor or 80% efficient Energy Star qualified gas water heater. Those are hard to come by. There's not very many on the market. So they're really kind of directing people, excuse me, to go toward the tankless. And honestly, if you don't have a family that uses an awful lot of hot water, chances are the tankless models are going to save you energy and money in the long run anyway. They have to be Energy Star qualified. That's an important point for here and for windows and doors. All the way through the program, they require Energy Star qualified models. And so there's a $200 rebate for the tankless models as well, above 9.9 energy factor. Attic insulation, we're aiming for the R60 level at this point, $500 for increasing your attic insulation up to R60. For cathedral and flat roof insulation, the addition of at least R14 is required for the rebate. Now, it gets a little tricky when you've got part that's cathedral and part that's got an attic. You don't get two rebates for that. It's prorated according to the area. And then I mentioned the air sealing, that air leakage, equivalent air leakage area number that we calculated when we were doing the blower door test. We're looking for an improvement in 10% by 10% in that number. So if it was, for example, 100 square inches was the number that we achieved there with the blower door test, you'd want that to decrease to 90 square inches to get the $100 rebate, or 80 square inches to get the $150 rebate. Windows, door, skylights, I mentioned they have to be Energy Star models, $40 for each opening, for each window or door or skylight. And just a note to the Energy Star, I had a client who wanted to replace just the glass. She had double pane sealed units that the seals had failed and they were fogging up. So she was getting the glass replaced. But when Energy Star qualifies a window unit, it's the whole assembly. It's the frames, the sashes, and the glass together. So just replacing the glass would not qualify. In her case, she wasn't upgrading to low E coating or anything like that. It wasn't a more efficient model anyway, so she wasn't eligible. So bonus rebates, I mentioned the cost of the audits and the rebate for the audits. If the homeowner completes upgrades in 2 categories, then $550 rebate is available for toward the cost of the audits. If the homeowner upgrades in 3 categories, there's a $250 bonus for that 3rd category. They get the rebates for all of the upgrades, plus an extra $250 bonus for a 3rd category, and another $250 for a 4th category, et cetera, et cetera. So that can add up quite quickly, and the total rebates available, as I mentioned, was $5,000. So to kind of summarize all of this, efficiency is important for homeowner comfort, for saving money, and for helping to save the world. Air leakage comprises the largest factor in the energy use of the house and the homeowner's comfort. Energy rating, it's a measurement. It's a measurement of how efficient the house is, and the air tightness value is a measurement of how tight the house is. And so these numbers can be used in marketing one home over another, or in trying to sell a home to show that you've paid attention to the energy efficiency and have made the upgrades to become more efficient. The audit that we perform as energy auditors provides direction for clients to see where they can find the best energy savings and improve their house the most. So for you as realtors, there's an opportunity for you to educate your clients, to show them how these numbers relate to the quality of the home, how the home has been upgraded, and how the value of the product that they're buying or selling. So we hope that you can find some value in this program and can educate your clients. There's a couple things that I'm just going to mention sort of in closing, especially if you have buying clients who are considering doing some renovations and are going for mortgage plus improvements, this is a great time for them to get those energy efficiency upgrades done, because they can do it all at the same time, wrap it up into one payment, and then a couple months later they get a nice rebate check on top of it. So that's something that you can promote to your buying clients. And then I'm just going to skip out of sharing mode to here, and I'm going to show you this information here. This is a sort of a branded information sheet. It's got the information of Barrier Sciences, and I've just got my business card stuck on this, but we have a version of this that has the Barrier Sciences information. It's got my information over here, and then it's got a gap in the middle, and we can put your information on that, and so that we'll return it to you so that you can pass it to your clients and use it as a marketing tool, and reestablish a relationship with clients that you may not have connected with for a while, or maintain the relationship that you have with some of your past clients. And I've talked to a number of realtors who are finding some value in that, and helping their clients get in on the program. So we hope that you'll consider doing that. And I'm just going to share back to my screen because I failed to put up my contact information. So there you have contact information, and please feel free to connect with me there. And I'm also, I'm going to share this on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. Check that out, and check out the other videos that I have there as well. And there will be in the comments below this some links to some other information that you might find useful. So I hope that you've found this presentation useful. Thank you for attending. Thank you to the Guelph District Association of Realtors for making this happen, and for distributing this video to your members. I hope you are all safe and staying sane through COVID-19, staying healthy, and thanks again for joining this and watching this video.